We went over the basic leg lock positions just all the way down yesterday. So I guess we'll put a link to that video, but start in position 1. So from here, this is position 1. Foot's on the hip, knees are pinching. Make sure your toes are never like this. I've seen this a lot even from high level leg lockers, especially if the foot's all the way over. So if you do this, if your toes are pointed, right, and I get control of them, all I have to do is put my rib cage up against the top of his feet, and this is a really nasty toe hold. So you have your whole body to work with and his foot's not going anywhere. Moreover, it's easy for me, even if I can't leg lock him for whatever reason, I'm being nice. If he doesn't have his toes pointed out, if I just clear that leg, it's easy for me to start working, stacking, all kinds of unpleasant stuff. As opposed to if your toes are pointed to the floor. If he tries to clear my leg now, he's just pushing it into the ground. Now, the other thing to be careful with, doing that now, buddy. Good?
Yeah.
When your heel is on the hip, it's hard to clear it. Toes need to be down. Now, this is very difficult to do if you're flat like this and you're trying to turn your leg up. Look at all this space here. If you come up, you should see a hole. Right? So you never want to be flat like this and trying to do your leg locks. Get on a hip. Now if it's the same side grip, the most common, I'm not going to say best because sometimes confusing people is good. You can be on the other hip and you can still work. But the most common position would be on the same side hip as your grip. And you have to really go deeper into it. This makes it easy for me to turn my toes in and to lift my butt, which is part of the leg lock. So you're here. Don't have your knee just inside the legs relaxing. Because if that's available to him, again, put me in an ankle lock. Right? So, well, first of all, the toes. There you go. Okay. See? Now it's hard to move there. Now let's say he's screwing up and his knee is out and he's trying to leg lock me. First of all, too much movement in the knee. And you really need to work this closed. Because right now, even if it's on top of my leg and it's secure, right? If I pull it with my whole body, I can lift it. And if I've lifted it, especially when people don't expect you to do this, right? Now that I've lifted this knee, my hand comes through, and he might have had a leg lock on me, but now I can blow out his knee before he finishes this one. It's not instant, the ankle locks, so this will be faster. And people are gonna tell you, you know, some guys don't tap to muscle locks or calf slicers, and maybe if you're fighting for $50,000 or $1 million. But even then, you know, let's say we're fighting for $1 million, I will let him break my ankle. It's gonna get better in, you know, a month, 2 months. If that knee goes, right, I'm gonna separate that joint. That's going to be 6 months of recovery. God knows how much physical therapy after that. And people do know this. So if you're attacking the more vulnerable joint, don't leave it exposed. So that's some of the reasons for doing this. Knee is pinched and and you're all the way over. Now if you try to lift my knee, see how I'm turned. The more the better.
Yeah.
It's very hard to lift it, and then your whole body weight is angled down towards the floor. Some people grab this shin. That's okay. I do that sometimes too. Okay. Just to secure the leg before you go for submissions. But this is the important part of the lock. The submissions themselves are secondary. I'm gonna go over them in a second. But until you get good here, work with your partner. Hold on and then ask him, get out.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't start going for submissions. If you're just rolling, you get here, control the knee, make sure you have this secured. Now the submissions themselves. The old school, most common one would be the ankle lock. So let's go over that really quickly. Never do the ankle lock like I'm showing you right now, but this is just so it's easy to see where the hands go. Right? So the blade of your arm goes across the back of his Achilles tendon like this. And don't be 45 degrees, or the closer you can get to a plus sign, so 90-degree angle between your forearm and his Achilles tendon, the better. And this is basically the lock. You are immobilizing this, something needs to immobilize the knee, but that's the lock. Because if I do it right now when his knee can go up, look, okay, there's no lock. But if I stop that knee from going up, suddenly it gets worse. Now that's not all there is to it. You don't want to just be moving with that same triangular shape. You need to make this as small as possible. This is hard to see when there's a leg in here, but when you are changing your arms, you drop your elbow like so. You see how this little window here, it disappears. Now imagine if there's a foot in there and you're doing this. See? You can't really tell like whether I'm just doing that or I'm actually forcing the elbow down, but the second one is much more pressure. And there's a couple of other details with the ankle. Is the shallowness, or the depth of how far this arm slides. Because for example, let's say he has a really strong ankle if we're in the middle of my forearm and I can't get this, right? If I slide my forearm deeper, you might not have his ankle as strong this way. Or vice, you have to play with it sometimes, see how the guy's leg genetically is put together. Conversely, if you pull your arm, right? Pull your arm so it's shallow. It's still an ankle lock, but now it's more of like a toe hold type of deal. Okay. To make it really obvious, it's here. Okay. Yeah. Right? It's still an ankle lock, but you've turned his toes in versus there. Okay. Gotcha. So the reason you never want to just do this and start ankle locking him is because he's going to kick me in the face. Like a straight front kick right to the face. Boom. Takter I've got knocked out like that in one of the earlier UFC by, I think it was Henzo, Gracie. Just kicked him. I don't know. You might be used to this in training. It's how you learn the leg lock fast. But I strongly recommend against ever trying to finish here, or even actually going for the leg at all. So if you're gonna be entering into your position one, some people just jump, right? I think it's better to pressure the opposite leg, and you're doing sort of like a knee slide test. Most people are gonna start trying to stop you from passing, you know, posting on your knees, shrimping that way. All the stuff that's effective to stop me from going in this direction, excuse me. But you're actually after this leg, so control the knee and fall to your opposite hip and pinch. There's very rarely any kind of resistance against that. People expect you are trying to pass in the other direction. Now that you are here, see I'm on my elbow. Ideally, this is just a show, obviously, but if I'm here, as I'm falling, I'm gonna just slide my hand in, and we're gonna wind up right here.
Okay.
But if you're drilling and you fall to your elbow, it's okay to readjust there. As you fall here, make sure your hip is not, I think you need to be there. Make sure your hip is never flat on the ground like this. You're gonna come up onto your shoulder and off the ground with your hips. And then you're gonna crank. This is a lot of pressure on the ankle. Don't obsess over where you get this. All those details I just showed you on the ankle lock, great, apply them. But even if I completely screwed up and I've grabbed like the cuff, I'm nowhere near his ankle right now, right? But you have everything else right, get up and start cranking.
Okay, damn,
I've seen people get their shin bone broken like this. So, there's a lot of pieces, but if you got your legs slightly sloppy, then your hands need to be perfect.
Okay.
But if this part is solid, the hands are almost irrelevant, just as long as you understand the basic principle. That's why I say spend a lot more time here. You have heel hooks from here also. So if you've got this leg trapped, right? You can grab the heel and control it. Now, this other hand is gonna swim inside, underneath the back of his heel, and here. You okay?
Yeah.
So, from here, this is pretty painful if I just twist. I tend not to use them. You have a little less control. Like when I start turning him, I'm also turning myself, so my knee will come up, and if you get on your both knees and face away from me, we might keep going. It's not the end of the world, because I'm still gonna honestly finish this heel hook. But I don't like space. If you can keep a guy still, that's usually better. And personally, the way I do ankle locks, I'm not sure why, honestly, because there's nothing wrong with the old school, classical leg lock. But probably because everyone knows leg locks in Moscow, they're all used to this, they all boot, they know how to defend. I use my other hand, typically. So my other hand is gonna go underneath the leg here. It's also kind of easier to work in because you can move around. When you're here, put this hand on your forearm, grab, and the same kind of pressure. You can also, if you want to be mean, grab your own elbow. It's very hard to escape from that. But again, you're giving up some position where if you might stack me or stand up, it's just not gonna be easy anymore. Because at that point, my leg lock is locked in. Again, if you're a beginner, start with the same side arm and just slide it down. You're on your elbow. It's kind of easy to just move your elbow around to readjust your body to where you're pretty good, and then you fall to your shoulder. Right? those are the details of position 1. I'll probably do position 2 next week, just not to take up too much time. And then 3 and 4 and so forth.